Yes, the Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I join all the honorable members of this House in expressing our gratitude to the respected Rashtrapati Ji for his inspiring address, which sets out the broad strategies, policies, and programs of our government, the challenges that we face, and the manner in which these challenges, if faced, can convert these challenges into opportunities to build a new India, an inclusive growth process which helps to integrate all regions of our country, all sections of our community, a growth process which will enable us to pursue a path which unites our peoples and does not divide them on various grounds. Sir, our primary concern as a nation is to work steadfastly for the removal of mass poverty, ignorance, and disease, which still afflict millions and millions of people in our country. Considerable progress has been made to soften the harsh edges of extreme poverty, but we have a long journey ahead of us, and the primary concern of our government, whether in dealing with internal matters or in external matters, is to widen the opportunities for the progress of an inclusive growth process which will make all sections of our community effective partners in processes of development. Sir, I have always believed, and I have had opportunity to express these views before, that the problems of mass poverty, ignorance, and disease which afflict large segments of our population can best be dealt with only in the framework of a rapidly expanding economy. And I say with some satisfaction, sir, that in the 3 years that our government has been in office, we have set in motion a growth process which promises that in years to come, if we remain faithful and steadfast in pursuit of this inclusive growth process, we will be able to make a significant dent on problems of poverty and unemployment. Our economy in the last 3 years that our government has been in office has grown at an average annual rate of 8.3% per annum. This year, the growth rate will probably exceed 9%. We have, for the first time in our history, managed to raise our investment rate to 34% of our GDP. We managed to raise our savings rate to close to 32% of our GDP. And everybody knows that the demographic profile, the proportion of people belonging to working age rising in the next 10, 15 years, if we can find productive job opportunities for this youthful population, that will further boost the rate of savings, the rate of investment, and our ability to deal with problems of poverty and mass deprivation. So, having said that, I would like to emphasize that growth is a necessary condition of tackling the enormous social and economic problems that our country faces. But it is not a sufficient condition. Therefore, we need to pursue a purposeful strategy which will ensure that the growth process benefits all sections of our population, that our farmers see the benefits of growth, that our policies and programs should be such as to improve the productivity of our agriculture, that our policies and programs should reduce regional disparities which characterize our past development profile, and that the processes of growth must give particular ray of hope to disadvantaged sections, whether they are scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward classes, minorities, and our women and our children. Sir, these are the concerns which should not divide this House. These are the concerns which unite all sections of our population. And when I listened to the debate, I was encouraged by the fact that despite our party differences, there is a broad agreement in this House that we should move in a particular direction, but we must also pay attention to the fact that growth processes must benefit all, that the needs of agriculture, the needs of our farmers must be attended to on a priority basis, that in the process of growth, if inflation becomes a problem and that it brings agony and hardships for the poorer sections of our society, that also has to be dealt with on a priority basis. Sir, I assure you that that's precisely the concern that I have, that our government has, and we will remain steadfast in pursuing the path of inclusive growth. What do I mean by inclusive growth? Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru defined the broad contours of economic policy for our country. Panditji used to say agriculture cannot wait, and he was right. But he also taught us that the destiny of a country as large, as diverse as India, lies in aggressive industrialization of our economy. This does not mean that we should not pay attention to improving agricultural productivity, but we have to recognize that in a country like ours, where the average size of holding is so small, there are narrow limits to what you can do to improve agricultural productivity, and that the long-term solution to that problem has to be to take people away from agriculture to manufacturing and to services and other non-agricultural pursuits. And it is in this context, the industrialization of our country, creating an environment in which industry can create a lot more jobs than before, becomes a priority concern. It is this concern that unites the people in this country. I know there are issues which cause concern to the House, whether a particular process of industrialization is leading to loss of availability of land at a pace which has undesired consequences. Those concerns have to be taken on board. But I do sincerely believe that my friend Buddha Bhattacharya is right when he says that the time has come when this country should work steadfastly to rapidly industrialize its economy. And therefore, I draw satisfaction from the fact, from the debate that has taken place, that despite party differences, our country is united about the direction in which we ought to be moving. Sir Advaniji and many other honorable members referred to the problems of agriculture. Sir, I do admit that the pace of progress in agriculture in recent years has not been adequate. It falls far short of what we need, and that we should do a lot more to accelerate the process of growth of our agriculture, growth of agricultural production, growth of agricultural productivity. How are we going to do it? Sir, we need to place greater emphasis on the expansion of the area under irrigation. Irrigation is a priority concern of our program of Bharat Nirman. This will also be an important focus of the 11th five-year plan, which is going to be launched from next month. Sir, we need a technological breakthrough to improve the productivity of dryland agriculture. The recently established National Rainford Area Authority will attend to this task on a priority basis. The need for rapid expansion of institutional credit for our agriculture will be attended to with determination. I recognize that in some parts of our country, indebtedness of farmers constitutes a serious burden. We have appointed an expert group under Dr. Radhakrishnan to look into this matter. We shall process this report speedily as soon as it is received. Sir, the modernization of agricultural research and extension services will receive priority attention. Districts characterized by agricultural distress have been identified. Area-specific strategies have been put in place to deal with the problems of these districts. In addition, all these districts will now be covered by the National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, which will provide a valuable social safety net for the rural poor and the deprived sections of our rural population. Sir, as the House knows, this program will now cover 330 districts, and in the 11th plan, our intention is to cover all rural districts of our country. In addition, the Bharat Nirman, a program designed to develop rural infrastructure with emphasis on irrigation, rural roads, rural electrification, safe drinking water, and rural housing, will also make a major contribution to improving the quality of rural infrastructure. The Backward Regions Grant Fund will also focus on improving the quality of rural infrastructure in backward districts. My own feeling is that if the programs that we have identified are well implemented, they will make a handsome contribution to softening the harsh edges of extreme poverty. Great responsibility rests on the state government as well as on the central government in improving the quality of governance and to plug loopholes in the effective implementation of these programs. Sir, I wish to assure this House that our government takes very seriously the challenge of near stagnation in our agricultural production in months and lie ahead. We will work steadfastly to identify the problems as they vary from one part of our country to another. I have already asked the Planning Commission to work out area-specific regional plans for the development of our agriculture. We're going to call a meeting of the National Development Council, especially to focus on the problems of agriculture and what needs to be done to revitalize our rural economy. Sir, several members have expressed concern about the rising prices. I do share their concerns. But, sir, I am convinced that the measures that we have put in place, both on the demand and supply side, will help us to moderate inflationary pressure in months to come. Already, there are indications that the rate of inflation has declined by nearly 1 percentage point in the last 2 weeks. That figures are available. However, I would like the House to appreciate that we are trying to curb inflationary pressures without adversely affecting the strong growth impulses which now characterize our economy. Supply side shortages can be relieved through imports, but our effort has been to bring in those imports without affecting the profitability of domestic agriculture. Also, international prices of wheat, maize, and vegetable oils have gone up, partly due to crop shortfalls and partly because of increased demand for use in the production of biofuel all over the world. Thus, it becomes difficult to control domestic prices when international prices of both petroleum products and food grains are experiencing a rising trend. However, the monetary measures taken by the Reserve Bank to moderate growth of money supply, the measures announced by the Finance Minister to reduce customs duty on essential commodities, and arrangements being made to augment domestic supplies through imports will, I am convinced, have a desired effect. In the medium term, of course, we must evolve a more effective strategy to increase production of food grains, vegetable oils, and pulses, and this is a task which will be a priority concern of our government during the 11th five-year plan. Sir, as I have already mentioned, I am asking the Ministry of Agriculture and the Planning Commission to prepare region-wise plans for revitalizing our agricultural economies. These plans will be discussed at a meeting of the National Development Council, which is being called specifically to discuss the problems of revitalizing our agriculture. Sir, I do not want to go into the issue of problems that have arisen with regard to the management of our nation's water resources. All that I can say that the management of our water resources and putting in place viable and effective arrangements for the resolution of interstate disputes is critical for sustained development in years to come. I call upon all political parties to treat water as a national resource, not an issue which should divide our people, and we should all work together in a spirit of national unity and harmony to resolve these issues. Sir, Advaniji criticized the government for not paying adequate attention to issues regarding internal security. The Honorable Leader of the House, the Leader of the Opposition, Advaniji, commented that the President's address has not paid enough attention to it. Sir, he may have been satisfied with more words, but let me assure him that in terms of real hard work on the ground, our government and our Home Ministry have a better track record to show than that of the previous government. Be it in the northeastern region, be it Jammu and Kashmir, or be it the Naxalite affected districts, the overall internal security situation today is far better than what we saw during the previous government. Even when we have had terrorist incidents like the ones we saw during the NDA rule, we have not had a breakdown of law and order and upsurge of communal violence of the type we saw in Gujarat. Compare the violence after the Godhra incident in Gujarat to the situation in Maharashtra after last year's Mumbai blast. Mr. Speaker, sir, I agree that we could have waxed eloquent through the President's address about all the work being done to minimize the loss to human lives after such costly terrorist acts. That would have added several paragraphs to this speech. Let me take this opportunity to compliment our security and police forces for the exemplary manner in which they have handled the situation, be it in Mumbai, be it in Malegaon, be it in Assam, or be it in Nagpur, where a plan to attack the RSS headquarters was fired. More importantly, our government ensured that there was no communal violence as a consequence of such terrorist attacks. Rather, in Mumbai, we saw our people coming out in thousands to stand up for peace and communal amity. Sir, we have been working in tandem with state governments to tackle threats to internal security. I do not wish to minimize any of these threats, whether they be from terrorist elements or the Naxalite elements. I myself have held a conference with chief ministers on this important matter and committed central support to any action by state governments to improve their security situation. As far as Naxalism goes, and this is the most widespread internal security threat as seen in the recent shooting of a sitting MP of this House, we have consistently followed a two-pronged approach to tackling this matter. On one front, we have been resolutely supporting states in improving the performance of security and police forces, taking up anti-Naxal action. We are supporting them in cash and kind. We are supporting them through training, intelligence sharing. We are promoting greater coordination between states. At the same time, we are not ignoring the deep-rooted causes giving rise to disaffection among tribals and other sections in some parts of our country. The National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, the conferment of land rights on tribals and in forest area, the backward regions grant fund, all contribute to improving the economic lot of people living in the Naxal affected areas. The aim is to ensure that they too benefit from the positive effects of the growth processes taking place in the rest of the country and avoid straying into the path of violence. Mr. Speaker, sir, Advaniji referred to Assam and stated that Ulfa was not even mentioned. He wanted to know what we were doing to identify and deport illegal immigrants. At the outset, sir, let me say that I have always condemned violence and extremism in Assam as elsewhere, and have never hesitated to say that we can negotiate only with those who want peace, not with those who kill innocent people. We will never hesitate to sit down and talk to a fellow Indian, howsoever misguided he or she may be, if such conversation can bring peace to our people. But we will never compromise the unity and integrity of our country or allow those who kill innocent people to go unpunished. It is with this in view that we began a dialogue with the People's Consultative Group so that it may gradually extend to Ulfa as well. As talks did not make headway, we continued with action by our security forces. Mere mention of one insurgent group or the other will not serve any purpose. What is required is the will and resolve to maintain peace and order and defeat any terrorist designs. About this, there should be no doubt whatsoever about the firmness of our resolve. Sir, as for the reference to the IMDT, let me clarify the matter. In Assam, the large elements of the minority communities, they genuinely fear that the IMDT, that the process of detection of foreigners could degenerate into an instrument of harassment of minorities. It is for this reason to reassure them not to protect illegal immigrants, but to protect the genuine citizens of our country that the IMDT was enacted. I know that the IMDT Act was struck down by the Supreme Court. Then we acted under the existing Foreigners Tribunal Order 1964. A separate procedure for detection of illegal migrants was laid down for Assam, which was also struck down by the Supreme Court as being unnecessary. Our intention, and I would wish to state this categorically, was only to prevent undue harassment of genuine Indian citizens. We respect, of course, the decision of the court and have continued to work under existing laws for detecting illegal immigrants. Tribunals have been constituted under the 1964 order and work is going on. There is no laxity or lack of commitment on our part in detecting and deporting illegal migrants. Mr. Speaker, sir, several members, Shri Basudev Acharya, Shri Ramji Lal Suman, were concerned about the unemployment situation in the country. I believe, as the President said in his address, that India will be able to gain from a demographic dividend only if we invest in the capabilities and the intellectual and emotional development of our children. Therefore, we need to generate gainful employment opportunities for our youth and at the same time equip them to take advantage of those opportunities. The rapidly growing economy is the best generator of jobs. We are giving a deliberate tilt in favor of sectors that create new jobs, such as manufacturing, textiles, agro-processing, and services. In rural India, the NREGA provides a basic minimum social safety net to the rural poor in the form of 100 days of assured employment. Simultaneously, the youth are being equipped through the modernization of ITIs, the vocational education mission, and the recently announced scholarship scheme for classes 8 to 10. I am certain, sir, that our effort at making our workforce more skilled and capable is going to be, in fact, the biggest driver of inclusive growth in the coming years. I foresee India becoming a manufacturing hub of the world in many products, the workshop which it was famed to be centuries ago. Sir, some honorable members, Shri Basudev Acharya, for example, have referred to the special economic zone policy. As I said, sir, we need to industrialize, and if we do need to industrialize, we need to encourage industries which will be labor intensive. If certain incentives have to be given, I think those have to be given. We must recognize that both today skilled labor as well as capital are internationally fully mobile. Therefore, our system of incentive has to be competitive enough to attract more capital, both domestic and foreign. But this does not mean that everything that has been done is sacrosanct. My colleague, Shri Pranab Mukherjee, is heading a group of ministers to review the approach to special economic zone to find out if there are any pitfalls in the present policy framework. It will be our intention to redress whatever genuine grievances they may be. If we have made a mistake in enacting a particular act, we do not stand on any formality. We will make necessary corrections. But I would like to say that the special economic zone controversy has given rise to a much due longer term debate, that is with regard to the problems of rehabilitation and resettlement of the dispossessed families from areas which are taken over for public purposes under the Land Alienation Act. I do recognize there is a need for a more humane approach which takes into account all those who suffer as a consequence of land having been taken away from them, and it will be our effort to come up with a more humane rehabilitation and resettlement policy taking into account the needs of times. Sir, there was a mention in Honorable Leader of the Opposition's statement that the President's address made no reference to the report of the Administrative Reforms Commission on Ethics in Government. Sir, there are also other reports also that our government has commissioned. I attach great value to these reports because they bring together valuable ideas on governance and policy. I hope the House will find time to discuss and debate these reports. I do sincerely believe that in the longer run, it is ideas rather than vested interests that hold sway on policy. I thank all those who have been associated with this intellectual effort of generating new ideas to give a new direction to development and governance in our country. As Karl Marx once observed, when ideas capture the people's mind, they become a material force. Some honorable members, Shri Ilyas Azmi, have expressed concern at the corruption in development programs launched by the government and leakages in expenditure. I share that concern. We need to have much better leakage-free implementation of many of our programs if we have to achieve the desired outcome. The thousands of crores of rupees that are being funneled into development programs will not bear fruit unless they are spent wisely and ethically. The rural development and other programs which have been launched in the last 3 years make available for each district 150 to 200 crores district-wise. That's a large sum of money. If spent wisely, they can bring about a softening of harsh edges of extreme poverty to a very considerable degree. State governments and local bodies, however, have a major role in ensuring this. The Right to Information Act goes to some extent in bringing in accountability into governance. At the same time, we need a change in the mindset if we have to root out corruption. Our government will work with states in ensuring that outcomes of development programs match outlays. Mr. Speaker, sir, I must share the concern expressed by many speakers, including Shri Madhusudan Mistry, who moved the motion of thanks with regard to the resurgence of communalism and signs of intolerance in parts of our country. He mentioned in particular the penchant to ban screening of films and the free expression of opinion in some parts of our country. Sir, the UPA government came to power because the people of our country rejected the forces of communalism and sectarianism. Our inclusive culture and our inclusive civilizational inheritance has no space for such intolerance. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are an open society. Some ask whether we are becoming an open society with a closed mind. I certainly hope not. Sir, the UPA will never allow anyone to weaken our democratic tradition. At the same time, we will never allow any force to break the unity of our people. We remain committed to our constitutional and national values of secularism and pluralism. I share the concern expressed by honorable members about signs of communal resurgence and sectarian intolerance. We too receive such reports from different parts of the country. I assure all members and every citizen of our country that we will fight communalism and sectarianism in all their forms and manifestations. We will defend the secular and pluralistic basis of our democratic republics. Sir, some honorable members have referred to the need to ensure that minorities too benefit from our growth processes and to ensure that they are not left behind. I share their concern. The Sachar Committee has brought out the stark reality about the conditions of Muslim community in our country. The new 15-point program is focused on ensuring an equitable sharing of the benefits of crucial development programs, particularly in health and education. We are also designing targeted programs for minority-concentrated districts. In the long run, as all communities catch up in their social indicators, there would be no need for such programs. But given current disparities, it is imperative that we carry all sections along. Sir, I should like, in conclusion, to say a few words about foreign policy issues. I feel satisfied, sir, that we have been able to forge a broad national consensus on our foreign policy orientation. As I have often said, our policy reflects our enlightened national interest. We regard our national security and the need to create a global environment conducive to our rapid economic development as the key defining elements of our foreign policy. We also regard peace and stability in our region as a key objective of our foreign policy. The goal of our foreign policy is to expand the developmental options that are available to the people of India, to expand the possibilities for our citizens to exhibit their inherent enterprise and creativity, and to facilitate the creation of a prosperous, equitable, and inclusive nation living in harmony with its immediate and wider neighborhood. If our foreign policy initiatives are seen through this prism, it would be apparent that there is consistency in our approach in every direction. In the last 2 years, our relations with Russia, the United States, the European Union, China, Japan, and the ASEAN nations have all grown. We have expanded relations to cover many new areas, and in all these regions, there is a growing realization of the importance of India in world affairs. There is a realization that the success of India as a nation, as a democracy, has deep implications and lessons for the world. Our success is a success of democracy, inclusiveness, harmony, openness, and tolerance for diversity. It is this realization that makes India a regular destination for all major world leaders. At the same time, our traditional relations with non-aligned movement, Africa and West Asia have also deepened, and our government proposes to expand those further in the coming years. The benefits of this extensive improvement in our relations has had tangible benefits for our people in improving trade, in increasing opportunities for employment, in expanding the reach of our business enterprises. I believe, sir, that we have crossed a significant point in our economic history where we are now seen as important, credible partners in managing the evolving global economic and political order. In our immediate neighborhood, we are looking forward to hosting the SOC Summit early next month. India seeks a neighborhood of peace, prosperity, and mutually beneficial economic and social development in our subcontinent. I have often said that the destinies of the nations of this region are interlinked. We have not slackened in our efforts to promote peace and stability in the region despite obvious difficulties. As the incoming chairman of SOC, we will expand the scope of our relations with all nations of the SOC region. I am sure the House will join me in expressing the hope that the SAARC summit will be purposeful and productive and contribute to the progress and welfare of all people of South Asia. Sir, we have been working purposefully for the all-round improvement of our relations with Pakistan. The difficulties that arise are well known to this House, but I believe that the efforts that we have made are beginning to bring positive results. We need to establish long-lasting peace, friendship, and amity between our two nations. We will work resolutely in this direction. I am sure that through dialogue, we will be able to resolve all outstanding issues, and I have great hope in what the future holds for our two nations, for our progress, for our prosperity. Finally, sir, in thanking the President for his address to the House, I once again express my gratitude to honorable members for their thoughtful comments on various issues of national and local concern. I respect the sentiments behind many of the cut motions tabled. Our government will pay heed to each and every one of the valuable suggestions made and concerns that have been expressed in this August hour. I thank you, sir.